Shalom, sisters. Bless y'all. So it's 9:30, so I'm gonna go ahead and start now. We have 2 hours, so I'm gonna try to get all the information in and still have times for questions and answers. But if y'all can hold the questions and answers till after the presentation, so we have time. So the first portion, I'm gonna be speaking about just the reproductive system, the basics of it, how to track your cycle, how to track ovulation. This first portion is more so going to be for those who are regular, young, healthy, things like that, right? So the young daughters of Zion, as they grow and they need to learn their bodies, it's mainly going to be for them. And anybody who, like I said, is regular, hormonally balanced. But the second portion is when we're going to speak about hormonal imbalances and if you're not as your body is not as regular in your cycle and things like that. So we're going to speak on what would cause those hormonal imbalances, what are signs of those hormonal imbalances, and what you can do to help you get more hormonally balanced. What I'm not going to be speaking on because I don't have much knowledge on it is that season of life when you get older and you start hitting perimenopause and menopause. Those are things that I'm not informed enough about right now in my season in life. So as I learned that later on in life, I could possibly speak on those things also. But for right now, it's more so for I would say like 20s, 30s, more so that age range, and of course younger. Okay, so a little bit about me. So when I began to learn about tracking my body, I was about 17 years old. Sister Ashley had actually shared with me a really cool book. It was like really old-fashioned, and it was just talking about when you're considered safe and not safe based on ovulation and things like that. It got me interested in learning my body, so I started tracking my cycles, and I started paying attention to the different signs my body was showing me. I started researching, okay, what does this sign mean? What does that sign mean? And over the last 11 years of my life, because I'm 27 now, I've really been able to learn my body and also learn the different phases of your cycle, how the body changes when you're breastfeeding, pregnant, things like that. And as I've gotten older, and I've also been able to speak to a lot of different women in different seasons of their life. And also, I was able to build my knowledge on those things as well. Just their different experiences and how their body, the different signs of their body as well. So I'm not a doctor. I never went to school to study these things. This is just my own experience, my study, my research, and just talking to other sisters. This is how this knowledge has been obtained. All right, so your reproductive system, you have ovaries, fallopian tubes, uterus, and a vaginal canal. So everybody, you can touch your uterus. It's right here. You see? Can you see? All right, right here. This is your uterus, right here. All right. Your uterus has fallopian tubes that leads to your ovaries. Can everybody hear me all right? I felt like the mic went out. Okay. Your fallopian tubes, it leads to your ovaries. Your ovaries is where your eggs are produced. They travel through your fallopian tubes into your uterus. And once they reach your uterus, if you have seed inside of you, meaning if the man puts seed inside of you, you can conceive and a baby grows in there. Or if there's no fertilization, then the egg dissolves and it comes out through your menstrual cycle. All right, so the terminology that we're going to use today, we're going to use the word flow or flowing for the time that you are unclean, bleeding, or on your period. And we're going to say cycle for the time span from the beginning of one flow to the beginning of the next flow. All right, does that make sense? So from whenever you're bleeding, on your period, etc., I'm going to say flow or flowing. And when I say cycle, that's from the beginning of one flow to the beginning of your next flow. All right, you keep track of the days between each cycle. This is your cycle length. So, for example, day number 1 right there, let's say that's when you start flowing. Okay, that's when you become unclean. Different women will flow for a different amount of days. Some women might flow for, 4 days, 5 days, some 6, 7 days, some much less, some more. And sometimes if it's too little or too much, that can be a sign of hormonal imbalance, but it can vary in length from woman to woman. So in this example, it says 5 days, but like we said, it could be longer, it could be shorter. When you And then let's say the purple, they're showing, okay, that's when she finished flowing. Then the rest of your cycle continues until you start flowing again. So from day 1 all the way to day 28, that is a complete cycle. So that's the days of your cycle. So let's say you flow on day 1 and it takes 28 days for you to start flowing again. That means your cycle was 28 days. Or let's say you start flowing on day 1 and you start flowing on day 24, then your cycle was 24 days. Or let's say you start flowing on day 1 and you don't start flowing again till 33 days later, then your cycle was 33 days long. So that's how you would track your cycle. And so for the daughters, this is something good for y'all to start doing now. Start keeping track on your calendar. So you put, okay, this is when I started flowing. And then when you start flowing again, count how many days in between. And then you start seeing your pattern and how regular or irregular you might be. You might say, okay, every month is about 28 days long, or every month is about 26 days long, or every month is about 30 days long, right? Or it might vary from month to month, and it'd be like, okay, well, one month I'm 24 days, the next I'm 26, the next I'm about 23. Or you might realize that you're very irregular, and it might be like, okay, well, one month I'm 24, and the next month I'm 34. You see, so for some women it can vary in length. And during this time, during your menstrual cycle, you have 3 different phases, or you have 2 different phases, but 3 different things are going on. You have your follicular phase. Does everybody say follicular phase? It's hard to say, but okay, that's that is when that's day 1 of your flow until ovulation. So when you start your flow, that's day 1 of your follicular phase. And whenever you get your ovulation, that's when your follicular phase has ended, all right? Then your ovulation, that lasts for 24 hours, and that starts when the egg is released, and it's completed when the egg is dissolved, or begins to dissolve. The luteal phase is following ovulation until your next flow. So that means, okay, you're done ovulating, and now you're just waiting for your flow to start again. That's your luteal phase. Okay, so I'll leave that up for like 2 seconds so y'all can write it down if y'all need to. All right, so you got your follicular phase, your ovulation, and your luteal phase. So right here you see if a woman starts her, and these examples are going to be 28-day cycles, but know that your cycle can vary in length. But in this example, she started on day 1. Her flow, that was the beginning of her follicular phase. It ended when she ovulated, and then the luteal phase began after ovulation and ended when she started her cycle all over again. So those are your 2 phases right there. All right, so your overall length of your cycle, okay, the clinical average is 28 days from the beginning of one flow to the beginning of your next flow, but it can be shorter than 28 days, longer than 28 days, or it can vary in length from month to month. Any of these variations can be healthy depending on the length of each phase within your cycle, meaning depending on how long your follicular phase is and how long your luteal phase is. Meaning it could be really long, really short, but it's healthy depending on how long those specific phases were in that cycle, all right? But regardless, it shouldn't be shorter than 21 days, and I can explain why in a little bit later. Okay, I'll leave that up for a few seconds if y'all need it. All right, so the follicular phase. So the follicular phase is from the first day of your flow until your ovulation. This can be 10 days to 26 days or longer, okay? So 10 days or more is how the follicular phase usually is. Meaning ovulation would occur any time from day 11 to day 17, but it could happen later also. So it would happen sometime from day 11 and on. On an average 28-day cycle, in this example right here, you see that the woman started flowing on day 1, and then she ovulated on day 14. That means her follicular phase was 13 days long. So what's happening during this time is the egg is maturing. So when you begin flowing, that moment your body is also maturing an egg within your ovary. You're also maturing an egg during that time. And it takes all those days to mature an egg until you ovulate, and then ovulation is when the egg comes out. All right, so ovulation, this is when the egg is released from the ovary and can be fertilized by the master's seed. If you are hormonally balanced, you wouldn't ovulate earlier than day 11, but you could ovulate much later than that. If you ovulate much later, your cycles will just be much longer. The egg can only survive 12 to 24 hours. So that's the max time. There's no egg that lasts longer than 24 hours. Okay. During the ovulation, most women release one egg, but in some cases, a woman might release more than one egg. She might release 2 eggs, and that's how some twins are created. Sometimes a woman releases one egg, and she still has twins because 2 seed entered into the egg, or 1 seed entered it and it split. So just a fun fact right there. All right, so check this out. The man's seed can live in the woman's body for 5 days. So even if your ovulation is only 1 day, but if the seed is already inside of you, up to 5 days before, you can still get pregnant. So you might be like, oh, well, I'm ovulating, we're not together. But if you were together any of those 5 days prior and he put seed in you, that seed can fertilize that egg. So that's something to be mindful of if you're trying to conceive or you're trying not to conceive. Okay, fun fact. The man's seed can live on surface or skin for up to 30 minutes. So that means that if the seed was I'm going to speak discreetly for the daughters so the older women will understand. So if the man does not allow the seed to go in, but the seed is still on the man, and the man enters back in, then you can still get pregnant that way too, if you're ovulating or about to ovulate. So that's something to keep in mind too if you're trying not to. The seed can stay alive on the surface for up to 30 minutes. All right, ovulation. Okay, how do you know when you're ovulating? Okay, so you would be able to know by your cervical mucus changes. Some women are able to tell because of ovarian pain and discomfort, and some women use their LH surge to know that they're ovulating. So the LH surge, how they track that is either through ovulation strips or through their body temperature. I've never done the body temperature. I have done the LH strips. And what the LH strips do is they track your LH surge. What happens with your hormones is right before you ovulate, your LH hormone surges. It goes up, it peaks, it goes up. And then 12 to 36 hours later, that's when your egg will be released. And so when women use these ovulation strips, it'll show them if they are peaking, if their LH is peaking, and if it is, they know that they should be ovulating within the next 12 to 36 hours. I believe the temperature is very similar, but that's how you know with the strips. With the ovary pain and discomfort, not every woman will feel this as distinctly, but some of you may feel this. Whenever you're ovulating, you might feel ovary pain on either side because that's where the egg is coming out of. It's coming out of one of your ovaries. So you may feel a little discomfort on either one of your ovaries. And that would let you know that you're also ovulating. And then for the most part, every woman would be able to tell if they're ovulating, and this is more so if you're healthy, is your cervical mucus. But we will speak about if you tend not to have a lot of cervical mucus, we're going to speak on that too. But during your ovulation, your cervical mucus tends to increase. And as you see in the picture right here, when you're not fertile, meaning all of us go through these stages throughout the whole cycle. So there's different times in the cycle where none of us are fertile, right? But then there's a very small window where we are fertile, okay? So during our cycle, we'll notice sometimes dry, tacky, or thick cervical mucus. That's when we're not fertile. We'll notice sometimes creamy, sticky cervical mucus. That's when we're not fertile. We'll notice sometimes cloudy, stretchy mucus. Okay, now we're starting to become a little bit more fertile. But then this watery, stretchy, egg white cervical mucus, that's the most fertile, sustainable mucus for the seed. Like your seed, the man's seed can really flourish in that cervical mucus and can really swim to the egg really easily. It's like water. Imagine it's like a fish in murky water versus a fish in fresh, clear water. You know, that's what it's like in our body, all right? You may also notice an increase of libido during your ovulation. So that's something that, you know, to pay attention to. You'll notice that during that time, you're very much more desirous. You want to be with your master probably twice as much as a normal basis. You know your ovulation has ended once you become dry again. So typically, the way that you can ensure that you're done ovulating or that you've ovulated is because after becoming very abundantly wet and moist, you'll notice that you end up becoming really dry again. And to me, that's one of the best ways to know that you're done ovulating. So if you're thinking, oh, I think I'm ovulating because of these different signs, you'll know, okay, now I'm done ovulating, so I'm pretty sure I was ovulating because now I'm dry again. You get it? And so right after ovulation is done, you should get dry again. I always advise women, wait at least a day just to play it safe if you're trying not to conceive. So this is an example of what your cervical mucus would look like throughout the month, throughout your cycle, I should say. So in the beginning, of course, you're flowing, but right after your flow, you tend to be dry, not too much cervical mucus. It might be tacky, just, you know, very non-fertile mucus. As you approach your ovulation, that's when, for the most part, your cervical mucus will become more abundant. You might notice, like, man, I'm really wet now. You know, when you go to the restroom, when you wipe on your, you know, panties and things like that. And then when you get to your ovulation, it will still be abundant, or it should still be abundant. And then right after ovulation, up until you start again, that's when it'll get dry, and you won't have too much mucus during that period of time. So before and after, you don't really have an abundance, but during that window, I call it the fertile window, when the seed can live in you for 5 days or so, or when you're actually ovulating, that's when you'll notice more abundance of cervical mucus. And like I said, we'll speak on, if you don't have an abundance, we'll speak on what you can do. All right, so now we're going into the luteal phase. So we had the follicular phase, which was when you started your flow up until ovulation, then you had your ovulation. Now we're speaking about the luteal phase, which begins after you ovulate, all right? So right after you ovulate, so the luteal phase begins right after you ovulate and ends at the start of your next cycle, which is when you begin flowing again, okay? This phase normally lasts 10 to 17 days. If you're hormonally balanced, it really should only last 10 to 17 days. It shouldn't be any shorter. It won't typically be longer. So after a woman ovulates, she should expect her flow 10 to 17 days later, which is cool because let's say you're like, man, I wonder when it's going to come again. Let's say you're irregular and you're not sure when it's going to come again. It should, if you're hormonally balanced, it should come 10 to 17 days later. So you can actually plan ahead of time like, oh, I know that we're going on a trip in 2 weeks. I know I normally start my cycle in about, you know, I should be starting my cycle in the next 10 to 17 days. You can prepare ahead of time. So I think it's cool to keep track of these things because then you can better prepare and plan even for those basic things in life. You know, you take your pads with you, you know. All right, so what is happening during this time? If your egg was fertilized, okay, your egg is burrowing into your uterine lining during this phase, okay? But if it was not fertilized, no seed was in it, then it'll dissolve. It'll begin to dissolve. This is when you're considered safe if you're trying not to conceive. So I really say this to a lot of women. I really wouldn't consider myself safe before my ovulation just because, like I said, the seed can stay alive in you for 5 days, okay? So, like, for example, let's say, we'll explain that a little bit more later, but after you ovulate, when you become dry again, that's when I would say you're safe. You ovulate, you're dry again, you're for sure that you're done, and then I would say, okay, you're safe if you're trying not to conceive. So that's the luteal phase, because at that point, the egg is just being dissolved. All right, so the circle method, okay? This method works if you're regular and hormonally balanced, okay? This is based on the understanding that you will be ovulating 10 to 17 days prior to your next cycle, all right? So if you are regular, but your cycle is longer or shorter than the average 28 days, you can still determine your ovulation window by subtracting 10 days from the length of your regular cycle, then subtract 17 days from the length of your regular cycle. So if you look at this picture, I'm sorry. So if you look at this picture, on this 28-day cycle example, you see that you started flowing on day 1, right? And it was a 28-day cycle. Okay, you had a 28-day cycle. Subtract 10 days from 28. That'll put you at 18. Okay, then subtract 17 days from 28, and that'll put you at 11. That's her ovulation window, 11 to 18. So that's pretty easy, no? So just subtract 11 days from your regular cycle length, and then 17 days from your regular cycle length, and that is your ovulation window. So 11 to 18 days would be this sister's ovulation window if that was her regular cycle length. If you are, let's say, 33 days, 1 month, 35 days, another month, and your cycle fluctuates between 33 and 35, or just any two numbers, basically. What you would do is you would subtract 10 from the larger number and 17 from the smaller number, so your window would be, so in this case, let's say 33 and 35, her window would be day 16 to day 25, because you would subtract 10 from 33 and 17 from 35. I'm sorry, that's backwards. 10 from 35 and 17 from 33, all right? Remember, the seed can stay alive in the woman's body for 5 days, so be mindful of the 5 days before your ovulation window. So if her ovulation window is 11 to 18, meaning she doesn't know when she's going to ovulate, she just knows she should ovulate in that window, then those 5 days prior, let's say she ends up ovulating on day 11, then she can get pregnant if she's together with her master those 5 days prior. So that's important to remember if you're trying not to conceive. Okay, if you wanted to pinpoint your exact day of ovulation, you would pay attention to your signs. So see, this is just a window, meaning you don't know exactly what day you're going to ovulate in that window. You just know that that's your window that you may ovulate. But if you want to pinpoint your exact ovulation, like, okay, this is the day that I ovulated this month, you would pay more attention to your actual signs, like your cervical mucus, if you feel any ovary pain or discomfort, and if you take those LH strips or temperatures, you would check your surges. If you are irregular, you wouldn't be able to use this circle method, but you can still use your body signs. So just, for encouragement, when I'm nursing, when I'm breastfeeding, I get really irregular. That's normal. And so I'm not able to use this type of method because I'm not as regular, but I'm still able to know when I am ovulating based on my signs. And I'm able to pinpoint the exact day each month that I'm ovulating, which is good for when you're not trying to conceive right after a baby. All right, so basically to sum that part up, a regular cycle, you subtract 10 days from the length of your regular cycle and subtract 17 days from the length of your regular cycle. That's your ovulation window. If you have a regular irregularity, which is like you have maybe 2 different days that you may start your cycle, you subtract 10 from the larger number and 17 from the smaller number. And if you're irregular, you would just use your body signs, your cervical mucus, your discomfort in your ovary, or your LH surges. All right, so these are different causes for temporary changes in your cycle. All right, so when you're breastfeeding, for example, progesterone, which is a hormone that's highly involved in that, there's less of it, so it may cause shorter luteal phases, for example, in some women. For some women, it may just cause just irregularity altogether while you're breastfeeding. And then in this case, like I said, you wouldn't be able to use different methods to, like the circle method, you would only be able to use your signs to know when you are ovulating. Other things that can temporarily change your cycle is stress, physical or mental. So even if you're super regular and you're like, oh yeah, I always start at 27 days, or I always start after 25 days, or I always start after 30 days. Even if you're super regular, if you have any of these things like stress, a new exercise regimen, or a new diet, that month you can be off, meaning you might start later, or you might start sooner, you might ovulate later, or you might ovulate sooner. And that's good to know because, let's say again, if you're trying to not conceive, which I know in some cases, like when you first get married, you're trying to wait a year or two, or maybe you just had a baby and you're not trying to have a baby like right away, or if you're trying to get pregnant, you're trying to conceive, these things are good to know because you might be expecting to ovulate on a certain day, but then it changes because of these factors. So if you're like, oh, I fasted this month, I did a 21 Daniel fast, okay, that's going to change your cycle more than likely. That month it'll probably be shorter or longer. Same thing with a new exercise regimen. You just started working out for the first time in months. That can affect it also. And stress, let's say you're traveling, you're packing for straightway, for 2 weeks in the tent, you might get stressed out. That can also affect your cycle, all right? And it'll be temporary, it'll just be for that month, and then you'll more than likely get back to normal, all right? These things can cause your cycles to be, and I already said that, but remember this, that even if you are regular, if your master is not trying to conceive for a time, being mindful that your cycle can change from 1 month to the next due to the above causes. So even if you're like, oh, master, I don't normally ovulate until day 18, so I'm safe for these amount of days. Well, just remember that you might ovulate sooner if any of these factors cause a temporary change in your cycle. Okay, so that was the first portion. I feel like I made good timing. So I actually take any questions on that first portion. So if we're going to go into hormonal imbalances, but if you have any questions just based on the basics, how you track yourself, I'll take those questions now. You have a question? Yes, I'll bring the mic over.
Shalom, yes. My question was, after purification, most of us are still breastfeeding. And I know sometimes women do get pregnant without having their cycle, so how would you prevent that?
Yes, okay, so that's perfect because some women, they don't start their cycle again until they finish breastfeeding or once they start weaning. But some women, like myself, I start like at 4 months. No matter how much I'm breastfeeding and how much I'm nursing, I start like right away. Like right after purification, I'm like, oh, it's back. So with that being said, some women are like, oh, I never got my cycle, but yet I got pregnant. Well, because ovulation happens before your flow comes, right? So if your flow comes because it's releasing an egg, right? So what will happen first is you'll ovulate, you'll release an egg, and then you'll have your first cycle. Well, when you ovulate prior to your first cycle, if a seed is in there, you'll get pregnant, and you will never see your cycle because you ovulated and conceived. So that's something to be mindful of. And, you can just share this information with your master and be like, hey, I haven't started my cycle, but at any day now, I can still ovulate, even without me having started a cycle, because that's what happens first. And then you can let him make that decision and choice how safe he's going to be during that time. Some men choose to not release seed into their woman at all during that time because they want to play it safe, because they don't know when she's going to ovulate. And some men are like, you know what, you're good. I'm just going to go on you regardless. So it's really up to the man, but you just give him this information and let him know the possibilities, and that way he can make an informed decision from there. Any other questions? Does everybody understand the basics, how to track yourself, keep track? For the daughters, I would say what y'all can do is start making note in your calendars when you start your flow. Okay, then pay attention to your cervical mucus signs. I would say start now. Any women who are getting married, just all my sisters, start keeping track of your cervical mucus. Maybe put it on your calendar. Today I was dry. Today I was really red. Today I saw egg white. Today it was tacky. Like, make little notes about it on your calendar. And then as the months progress, keep track of yourself. See your pattern, and what your cervical mucus does throughout the month. And then, okay, I think I was ovulating on this day. And then, okay, cool, I got my cycle 15 days after I ovulated, My whole cycle length was about, 26 days. And just learn your pattern and see what your regularity is, okay? So this is something that would be good for all of y'all to do, because then you learn your body, and it's good for all of us to know our body, especially when we go into our childbearing, marriage, and, trying to conceive, not conceive, things like that. All right, any more questions on these things? Okay, so now I'm going to speak about hormonal imbalances. Okay, so let's say your follicular phase is really, really, really long, meaning like from the time that you start flowing until the time that you ovulate is like crazy long. It's like you're not ovulating till like day 20 something, okay? So what that can be, it could be tied to a vitamin D deficiency, or it could be an estrogen deficiency, which is a hormonal imbalance, okay? A longer follicular phase is fine for conception. You can, as long as you ovulate, eventually ovulate. As long as you eventually ovulate, you should be able to conceive still, even with a longer follicular phase, okay? The only thing that this will affect is that you will have a really long cycle. So for example, when I was nursing Salome, of course I was breastfeeding, so naturally that sort of messes with your hormones. I wasn't ovulating till day 25 because I was breastfeeding. And now I still got pregnant. I got pregnant with Anna, but my cycle at that time was about 35 days long. So I was ovulating on day 25, and then 10 days later I would get my next cycle. And I was still able to conceive. I conceived Anna. But that's just an example of some women can ovulate a lot later on in their cycle. It may just be taking your body much more time to mature and release that egg, and a lot of times that's because of the hormonal imbalances. It's taking your body a long time to mature that egg and to release it. And then in some cases, your body is making multiple attempts to ovulate or release an egg, meaning you may notice multiple patches of fertile mucus and LH surges without an actual egg being released. And so what that would look like, now this is not really typical, so this is not something that would happen to all of y'all. This happens like to a small percentage of women, I would say, because of hormonal imbalances. Breastfeeding can cause these hormonal imbalances also. But for example, one woman, she was like, oh, I know that I ovulated because of my cervical mucus. I had an LH surge, things like that. Well, even though she had the LH surge and the cervical mucus showing her that she was ovulating, she actually didn't release an egg during that time. And then a week later, her body attempted to ovulate again because it didn't successfully release the egg. So when it attempted to ovulate the second time, they laid together thinking she was safe, and they conceived. So that can happen in some cases. It's not very common, but it can happen. So she had 2 LH surges, and with another sister, she was like, man, every time I have an LH surge, we try to have a baby, but when we try to conceive, nothing would happen. So your body can have these LH surges without actually releasing an egg in some cases. Of course, this would be due to hormonal imbalances, but that is possible. Even if you're like, when I have an LH surge, why am I not getting pregnant? Well, in some cases, there may not be an actual egg being released if you're hormonally imbalanced. Okay, if you have a shorter follicular phase, this is a hormonal imbalance that could hinder conception. If your follicular phase was less than 10 days, meaning you were ovulating on day 10 or less, then you may be releasing an immature egg, which may not be able to be fertilized. So this is why it's good to keep track of your body and pay attention to the time frame from when you started your flow to when you're ovulating, because if you're ovulating on day 10 or less, then your egg may not be mature enough when it's being released. All right, so now if you have low to no cervical mucus, okay, during ovulation, low to no cervical mucus can make conception harder by making it harder for seed to reach the egg. This is not a friendly environment to sustain the seed. Like I said, imagine a fish in murky water versus a fish in clear water. You want the waters to be clear for the seed. All right, so the causes of this would be not enough hydration, because cervical mucus is 90% water. Like, we don't pay attention enough sometimes to how much water intake we're actually we're taking in. Water is so essential in so many factors of your body, and this is one of it. You need to drink water because it'll also aid your cervical mucus. If you're not hydrated, you're dehydrated, you won't have a lot of it. All right, excessive alcohol consumption has dehydrating effects that could have a negative impact on your cervical mucus. So if you're, in your childbearing years and you're trying to conceive and things like that, you want to be healthy down there, I would advise not consuming an excessive amount of alcohol. Just be very moderate with it, all right? Poor circulation to the reproductive organs because of sedentary lifestyle, all right? You want that blood flow to your reproductive organs. So if you're on your You know, if you're sitting all day long, you're not really moving a lot all day, those things can cause a low production of cervical mucus. All right, nutrient deficiencies and hormonal imbalances that are caused by other reasons can also cause low to no cervical mucus. And we will speak more in depth when it comes to the hormonal imbalances. Anovulatory cycles, okay, so this is when no ovulation occurs, okay, meaning no egg is released. Possible signs are irregular cycles, a lack of flow, unusually heavy or light flow, difficulty conceiving, and some women have no noticeable signs. You may even still have the egg white cervical mucus in an anovulatory cycle because your cervical mucus is changes in preparation for ovulation. So like I said, you may still have the LH surge, you still might have the mucus, but without the egg being released because these things happen prior to it. It's just that something went off in the body that didn't actually release the egg, even after all that preparation. Okay, the causes of this, hormonal imbalances. So one thing that causes anovulation in women, what the term that they give this to some women in the world is PCOS. What this is an overproduction of certain hormones like testosterone and LH, and that can cause anovulation. And that's just a hormonal imbalance because it's just more testosterone than what our body needs, and more LH than our body needs, okay? Birth control can cause anovulatory cycles, so I don't recommend birth control if you're trying to, if you want to have a healthy reproductive system, healthy hormones, healthy balanced hormones, because what birth control does, it confuses your body, you know, it just, you're telling your body to do different things than it should naturally be doing. So if, you know, I would recommend if you're having difficulty and you're taking it, or you've taken it, of course, please stop if you so choose to. But being underweight or overweight, okay? Being underweight and overweight can also cause anovulatory cycles. Excessive exercising. So, you know, like those women who go to the gym and they're like bodybuilders and they're like really buff and bulk, okay? So that's like excessive exercising, and that some of these women lose their cycles completely. So that's what it means by excessive exercising. Okay, not enough calories, nutrient deficiencies, and stress. All of these things can cause anovulatory cycles. So endure this part of these things because I'm going to get into the positive and how you can fix these things in a little bit. All right, longer luteal phase. Okay, so we spoke about different things that could be going different with your follicular phase, different things that can be going different in your ovulation. Now we're going to speak about different things that can be going different in your luteal phase if you're hormonally imbalanced. So if your luteal phase is much longer than 17 days, you may be pregnant, and what that means is if 17 days after your ovulation you're still not seeing anything, then you know you might as well take a test because it's possible that you're pregnant because you should be getting it 10 to 17 days after your ovulation. But it could also be due to a hormonal imbalance, but this doesn't typically hinder conception. So even if you had like a really long luteal phase, that would be caused by hormonal imbalance, but it wouldn't necessarily hinder conception. A shorter luteal phase, though, on the other hand, that could hinder conception because if your luteal phase is shorter than 10 days, meaning you're starting your flow less than 10 days after ovulation, that means your progesterone levels may be too low, okay? And what progesterone does is after your ovulation, it goes up, and when you start your cycle again, it goes down. If you get pregnant, your progesterone levels stay up. Right? If you have low progesterone, then your body can't hold that pregnancy because it needs the progesterone to hold it, right? So a short luteal phase means that your body doesn't have enough progesterone to hold it, so it's always coming out much earlier than what it should, okay? So the progesterone helps maintain the uterine lining that holds the egg. That's why you want a healthy amount of progesterone in your body during that time if you're trying to conceive especially, all right? Possible signs of hormonal imbalances that could hinder conception, all right? So as we said, if the follicular phase is consistently shorter than 10 days, meaning you ovulate before day 11 consistently, your eggs may not be mature enough. If you are not producing fertile mucus, this is another sign of hormonal imbalance, and this is not a conducive environment for seed to be sustained. If your luteal phase is less than 10 days, your progesterone may be too low, causing the uterine lining to be shed sooner. And these things can make conceiving difficult. All right, so see, these are your hormones. You got your follicular stimulating hormone, your estrogen, your LH, your progesterone, okay? So as you see right here, progesterone is that little green line. So you see before ovulation it's low, it goes up afterwards, and it drops again when you start. So that's why you want it to go up, and if you're pregnant, you want it to stay up. But when you, and your body will naturally do that if you're healthy. But if you are unhealthy and your hormones are imbalanced, then that progesterone hormone is not high enough, and it'll be too low to allow your body to hold that pregnancy. And then right here, the yellow one is your LH hormone. So you see right before ovulation, you see that peaks up a few, like maybe 12, like I said, 12 to 36 hours before you ovulate. That's how those strips work. And you see what estrogen is doing. And if your hormones are off, because they're supposed to, they have a rhythm they're supposed to follow. If they're off, it can throw your cycle off, and it can make it difficult to conceive. All right, so possible causes for these hormonal imbalances, okay? So possible causes are toxins and chemicals, poor diet and lack of nutrition, excessive alcohol drinking, being overweight or underweight, stress, whether it be physical or mental, birth control, as we mentioned before, and then spiritual. So in some cases, like Pastor had said in one of his videos, sometimes our reproductive system is hindered based on our spiritual condition also. So rebellion, being stressed from not agreeing with the word, those things can hinder our cycle, can throw things off. But in some cases, it may just be a test. It may just be a test of faith for some women. For some women, it just may not be time. We can't forget the barren women of the book. We have Sarah, Rebecca, Samson's mother, Hannah, Elizabeth. These women were righteous women of old. They were barren for a time, and then they conceived. So only Yahweh knows all things, and he does all things good. So always take things with balance, with the spiritual and the natural as we proceed, speaking more on the natural. So let's be balanced. Okay, toxins and chemicals. All right, so synthetic fragrances are one thing that can cause hormonal imbalances in women and decrease sperm count in men. So different things that these can be found in are different lotions, body soaps, skincare products, hand sanitizer, deodorant, air fresheners, laundry detergent, fabric softeners, laundry dryer sheets, dish soap, shampoo, conditioner, hair care products, etc. So if you have a lot of these commercial products that have all these fragrances, like they're so strong to me that they end up hurting my nose and giving me a headache. But like these fragrances, an excessive overdose of these things hinder your hormones and can hinder men's sperm count. Like they're just not natural, and they have a negative effect on the body. So I would just advise looking into more natural products, whether you're making your own homemade things or you're buying different homemade products from Israel, because the more natural, use essential oils instead of these store-bought things with fragrances. These things can actually hinder your body hormonally as well. All right, poor diet. Okay, this is a big one. This is big for anybody of any season of their life, man, woman, or child. Nutrition is so key. It's so key, and we cannot neglect this. Okay, if you have not enough good nutrition, and you have vitamin and mineral deficiencies, your hormones rely on you having a healthy amount of your vitamins and minerals. These vitamins and minerals actually affect your hormone production, okay? So you need to be making sure that you're getting all your vitamins and minerals in and being well balanced in your diet. When you have a balanced diet, you get the majority of all your vitamins and minerals just by what you're eating. And then the rest of it you can make up with a supplement, like a prenatal or a postnatal or just a multivitamin. But you want to get the majority of your vitamins and minerals naturally through food. So a healthy balance would be healthy proteins, healthy carbohydrates, and healthy fats. Those are considered your macronutrients. You need a healthy balance of those things in your body. Each one of them have a specific role. Proteins, carbs, and fats have a role in your body. You just want to make sure that you're getting the right sources, okay? So You want to make sure that it's healthy proteins, you know, good sources of proteins. You want to make sure that they're healthy carbohydrates, not tainted and refined and corrupted, and healthy fats, okay? And you want to make sure that you're getting the right amount for you. When you're pregnant or breastfeeding, you actually need much more grams of protein than the woman who is not breastfeeding or pregnant. It's like, I think like at least 20 grams more or so, something around that. Y'all should look into it, but you would need more. I know you're burning more when you're pregnant. Your body is creating a baby, so a lot of women tend to need more carbohydrates as well. So you just need more altogether. And you need to make sure that you're not neglecting your fruits and your vegetables, because along with your macros, you also need your micronutrients. And a lot of these micronutrients, which are your vitamins and your minerals, they come from these fruits and vegetables. And these fruits and vegetables also provide your body with what your body needs to break down the other food that you eat. All the meat and carbs and everything, your body has what it needs to break those things down through your fruits and your veggies. So eat your fruits and veggies. I would encourage all my sisters to eat their fruits and vegetables. And then also water and electrolytes. You want to stay hydrated. Like I said before, water is very key for your cervical mucus, but overall for your body. It cleanses you, it washes you, it helps, it hydrates your cells. You need to make sure you're staying hydrated. All right, another, what else would cause you to have poor diet is poor diet choices, such as refined and added sugars, cereal, bars, bread, drinks, condiments, dressings, desserts, candies. A lot of these things have added sugars, and if you're eating a little bit of all these things on a daily basis, you end up consuming a lot more sugar than what your body can really handle. So imagine for breakfast you're eating a bowl of cereal, and then for lunch maybe you had a sandwich, but you put some mayo, and that mayo had had sugar in it. And then for supper, you had some sweet potato, but you put some sugar on it. And then afterwards, you had a dessert, or you had a granola bar for the middle of the day, but that granola bar had sugar in it. Or you had oatmeal that morning, but you put a whole bunch of sugar in that oatmeal. These things add up. Or you had a cinnamon roll for breakfast or a coffee cake for breakfast. These things have sugar. Imagine the amount of sugar you're getting on a daily basis when you add up everything that you've eaten. So sugar is very detrimental. We're actually going to go more specifically into that in a little bit. But those poor diet choices can cause hormonal imbalances. Refined carbohydrates, white pasta, bread, crackers, excess of protein, carbs, or sugars. So protein is good. Like I said, healthy proteins, healthy carbs, but excess, meaning like all day long you've just been eating, refined carbohydrates, or all day long you've eaten nothing but meat all day. You have to be balanced. Meat is good for you, especially when you're pregnant nursing, you need a little bit more. But of course, always balance. Make sure you're still eating your fruits and your veggies. Make sure you have your healthy carbs in there, all right? Commercial yeast and processed foods. Processed foods are high in sodium, refined oils, and refined carbs and sugars. So a lot of processed foods, they're already bad from the get-go. They're no good. I would just avoid them as much as possible. Like for example, I might make exceptions here and there. Maybe we're at a feast, maybe we're having a fun night with the saints, but on a regular basis, I wouldn't make eating processed foods a habit or a lifestyle. Anything basically packaged up, is usually, like I said, high in sugar, high in sodium, has bad oils, and these things mess with your hormones. Too much refined and added sugar can cause hormonal imbalance. This includes excess refined carbs that turn into sugar in the body and spike the insulin because of the lack of fiber to buffer the sugar absorption into the bloodstream. So, for example, white bread, white pasta, things like that, they don't have any fiber, and fiber is what buffers the amount of sugar that gets absorbed into your body. Fiber slows down the rate that the sugar from these foods are being absorbed into your body. So without it, it causes a lot of insulin spikes or blood sugar spikes. And when your blood sugar is not stable, it causes hormonal imbalances also. Your hormone production relies on a stable blood sugar level. All right, so sugar. Sugar is not your friend when you're trying to conceive, especially in large amounts. Moderation is fine. Maybe you eat a dessert on Shabbat. You went out with the family and you ate something sweet, okay? But on a consistent basis, on a daily basis, it is not your friend, okay? So sugar consumption can cause hormone imbalance, especially for women. Excess sugar can lead to insulin resistance, which affects the production and regulation of hormones. Sugar can also be converted into fat cells, which secrete estrogen. This can result in estrogen dominance, progesterone deficiency, and hormonal imbalance. All right? Research in recent years has shown that consistently high sugar intake can negatively impact both male and female fertility. If ovaries read elevated insulin as a signal to produce fewer fertility hormones, sugar consumption could potentially interfere with ovulation. Sugar's effects on your hormones. When insulin spikes, typically after a meal high in sugar, this can lead to lower levels of an important protein known as sex hormone binding globulin. This hormone binds excess estrogen and testosterone in the blood, but when it's too low, these hormone levels increase. The more added sugar consumed, the increased risk of high insulin levels. Insulin resistance is linked to issues with ovulation, maturation of the egg, and implantation of the embryo into the uterine lining. It also puts women at a much higher risk for miscarriage. When processed sugars are eaten, insulin levels spike and flood the body. For purposes of fertility, they can interfere with the process of egg maturation. Insulin and hormones that make egg cells mature are so chemically similar that when there is too much insulin in the bloodstream, the body confuses the insulin with the egg maturing hormones, causing the levels to lower. Consistent occurrence of this may cause the amount of maturing eggs to decrease and interfere with ovulation. Fun fact, sugar increases female testosterone. Insulin also increases the production of testosterone. For women, testosterone plays an important role in regulating sexual function, bone density, and muscle mass. However, excess testosterone can lead to unwanted symptoms like acne, hair loss, and mood swings. So, sugar is not your friend. It's not your hormones' friend. And when you're trying to conceive, you want balanced hormones, all right? So now for encouragement. Everybody's ready for encouragement? Okay. We're talking now how to encourage hormonal balance, okay? Hormonal balance will aid in lengthening your follicular phase and luteal phase if too short, and will aid in encouraging healthy ovulation and better egg quality, all right? So the first thing is be at peace. Do not stress. Stress can disrupt hormonal balance. Stress can hinder or altogether halt your egg production. All right, chronic stress, now this is really cool, y'all, okay? Check this out. Chronic stress means our adrenal glands will produce too much cortisol. Cortisol production comes first before all other hormone production because it's a life and death hormone. Cortisol and progesterone compete for the same hormone production pathways. So cortisol always wins because the body prioritizes its production over progesterone, which is only needed for reproduction and not survival. And remember, low progesterone could cause a short luteal phase, which could cause it to be very difficult to conceive, or not conceive, but rather hold the pregnancy, okay? So you really don't want to be stressed out. You want to be at peace and perfect peace. You have perfect peace when your mind is stayed on Yah, so just follow the book, and you should have peace. You need to maintain a healthy weight through diet and active lifestyle because being overweight and underweight can disrupt hormonal balance. Avoid added and refined sugars as they spike blood sugar. Keep blood sugar stable because this is essential for hormone health, right? Healthy active lifestyle, but not excessive. You know, don't become a bodybuilder overnight, okay? This improves blood flow to help oxygen-rich blood flow to your ovaries, keeping egg cells healthy. All right, last but not least, good nutrition. Good nutrition for hormonal balance and healthy eggs. Eating a balanced diet, nutrient-rich, and that's very key because when we eat, literally the only reason we're eating is to nourish our bodies, okay? It's not for our taste buds. It's not just because, oh, I'm supposed to eat at this time and this time. No, when you put food in your body, its purpose should be to nourish your body. Like you're eating to give your body the vitamins and the minerals and the protein and the fats and the carbs that your body needs to function for your hormones, for your energy, for the building of different things in your body. So when you're eating, just be mindful of that. And Your diet needs to be nutrient rich to obtain all your daily vitamins and minerals. Avoid being nutrient deficient. Being deficient in any of your macro or micronutrients can cause the hormonal imbalances. You want to mainly get your nutrition through food, but then you make up for whatever you're not getting in your food with your supplements, whether it be a multivitamin for women who are pregnant, prenatal, for women who are nursing postnatal, which is for when you're lactating. So for example, just so you can see how hormones are affected by your vitamins and minerals, foods rich in vitamin B, C, E, and zinc, and magnesium are essential for hormone production and regulation. Vitamin C increases progesterone levels in women. B-complex vitamins, especially B6, is most effective on the luteal phase. Magnesium and calcium help raise low progesterone. Essential fatty acids, especially omega-3s, also aid in your hormonal balance. Selenium helps protect thyroid and is seen very high in follicles where it aids in follicle development. All right, so selenium is a mineral. So these are vitamins and minerals that have a direct effect on your hormones and on these things of your reproductive system. All right, I would encourage all my sisters, especially y'all young daughters, take the time to learn and educate yourself on nutrition. You know, try to find, okay, what are the vitamins and minerals that our body needs? Okay, what foods are high in these vitamins and minerals? Now, if you just eat a well-balanced diet, little protein, little carb, healthy fats, vitamins and minerals, the correct sources of these things, for your fruits, your veggies, you're going to get the majority of all your vitamins and minerals in regardless. But it's good to educate yourself. I encourage y'all to educate yourselves on, okay, what foods are high in these vitamins, what foods are high in these minerals, on all the vitamins and minerals. One way that I was able to educate myself more on these things is, if you want to, you can get an app. It's like a food tracking app, and you put in what you eat throughout the day, and then it shows you out of the food that you ate, how much of each vitamin and each mineral you were able to obtain that day just by the food that you ate. And to me, that helped me because I was able to see, okay, am I meeting all my mineral requirements? Am I meeting all my vitamin requirements? How much carbs am I really eating in the day? How much protein am I really getting in? And it helped me to be able to prioritize what I eat and how much of different things that I eat. And even if you just did it for about a week, you will see your pattern and you'll see how your diet actually looks like when it comes to vitamins and minerals. And if you want, I can speak more about that later. The app I use is called Chronometer. And I really like it to track your macronutrients and your micronutrients. It tracks your proteins, your fats, your carbs, and all your vitamins and minerals. And you'll be surprised, like, wow, this is how much calcium I got from what I ate. This is how much magnesium was in this meal right here. And you even can click on the vitamin or mineral itself, and it tells you what that mineral or vitamin's function is in your body. So I think it's a wonderful way to educate yourself in that area. Okay, how to increase the fertility of your cervical mucus. Like I said, typically you should have an abundance during your ovulation so that seed can make it to that egg. But if you notice that during your ovulation you don't have much cervical mucus, this is what you can do. All right, hydrate. All right, water and electrolytes. Your cervical mucus is 90% water, so you need to increase your water intake. All right, moderate alcohol consumption. In my childbearing years, I try not to drink too much alcohol unless I'm at a feast and it's a special occasion. Maybe you're spending a night with your master, or maybe, like I said, it's tabernacles. I'll drink a little bit, but at the house, on a normal, I try to avoid alcohol consumption because it doesn't have the same effect on our body like it does men. Men actually, their body has different things in their body that is able to break down the alcohol. We have very few of whatever that is in them. I forgot what it's called, but we have very few of that. Like, we have a lot less. So our body is not able to metabolize alcohol the way men's bodies are able to. And especially because it affects our fertility, it would be wise to be very moderate in your consumption. Maintain a healthy, active lifestyle to encourage blood flow to your reproductive organs. If you live on community, you're probably very active already. In the garden, with the animals, doing a lot of back and forth from one place to the next. But if you're not, if your lifestyle's more sedentary, I would encourage, you know, maybe start exercising, maybe go walking around your neighborhood if it's safe, you know, different things like that. Just get moving in some kind of way. Like I said, you don't have to get excessive with it. And you don't have to become a bodybuilder overnight because that can have the opposite effect. All right, balanced, nutrient-dense diet. So nutrient-dense is the key is the key words in this, nutrient dense. You want to make sure what you're eating is nutrient dense. What does that mean? Just real food, right? So eggs, so nutrient dense, right? Oatmeal, so nutrient dense. Fruits and vegetables, so nutrient dense, right? Steak, chicken, fish, so nutrient dense. Beans, potatoes, so nutrient dense. Just regular everyday food in its whole form. The less tainted it is by man, the less refined, no added preservatives, sugars, oils, whatever, the less touched it is, the more whole it is, you're going to get the benefit of all that nutrition without it hindering your body. You know, one of the things I love to eat for breakfast is oatmeal and eggs. You get your healthy protein, you get your healthy carb, and eggs, like I said, are very high in a lot of different vitamins and healthy fats. And then also with your oatmeal, you can make it even more nutrient dense by adding fruits, nuts, and seeds. One thing that I wanted to mention too is omegas. Well, I'm going to speak about the omegas, but you can add chia seeds, hemp seeds, walnuts, raisins. You can add so many things, almond butter, to your oatmeal, make it so much more nutrient dense. Smoothies are a great way to get a lot of vitamins, minerals in at one time. You can pack it in with different fruits, add some kale and spinach in there, put some seeds in there, and right there you have power-packed. You've pretty much taken a supplement right there because of how much vitamins and minerals you get just in that one smoothie. Another thing, even healthy dairy, you know, like healthy cheeses, goat milk, or raw cow's milk, organic milk. I think a lot of times in this world we demonize a lot of things, but when it's in its most natural state, in a normal state, it's meant to benefit your body. You need the calcium, you need the different vitamins and minerals that these things have within them. So the more we go back to basics, the more we go back to how Yahweh created things, you'll be good. You'll get the nutrition that you need. It's when we get away from how Yahweh created things and it gets all processed and man tainted it, that's when things get less nutrient dense and more harmful for our bodies. So like I said before, vitamins are key even for your cervical mucus health. Vitamin C, vitamin E, and zinc help boost healthy cervical mucus. So, you know, there's different foods high in vitamin C. A lot of your citrus fruits are high in vitamin C. Even red potatoes are high in vitamin C. Vitamin E, almonds are very high in vitamin E. Also some of your seeds. Zinc, you can find zinc in red meat, but there's also other sources that are high in zinc. Now these things help boost healthy cervical mucus, all right? You also, to have healthy cervical mucus, now this really works. Essential fatty acids daily. Your body needs the proper amount of fatty acids, meaning your omegas 3, 6, and 9, in order to have a healthy amount of cervical mucus. So you can get a lot of your omegas. So you can get your whole daily value of omegas just by taking a few tablespoons of hemp seeds and chia seeds or flax seeds. So in my smoothie, I typically do chia seeds and hemp seeds. I do about 2 tablespoons of hemp seeds, 1 tablespoon of chia seeds. You can do up to 3 tablespoons of hemp seeds and up to 2 tablespoons of chia seeds. But just with that alone, I make my daily value of omegas. And when I do that daily, because I do a smoothie daily and I put those seeds in there, I'm telling you, you see the results. You see the results. All right, so if I can say this, so testimony, I guess. So I did this for like about 2 months or so, and by the second month, whenever I ovulated, for the 5 days leading up to my ovulation, I had major egg white cervical mucus. I'm talking, it was clear, it was abundant for 5 whole days prior to my ovulation, after consuming the chia seeds and the hemp seeds in my smoothie for every day for about 2 months or so. So if that encourages anybody, motivates anybody, this stuff works. Okay, so essential fatty acids daily regulate hormones, reduce inflammation, increases the blood flow to the uterus, reduces sensitivity to the hormone prolactic, which can suppress ovulation. It increases egg white cervical mucus, which is needed to help the seed reach the egg. It helps your cycle to become more normalized. And hemp seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds, and I didn't put this, but walnuts also are an excellent way to get your daily requirements of your healthy fatty acids and omegas. So your fatty acids and omegas are really key for your cervical mucus health. All right, so recap. This is the last slide. All right, and I'm making good timing, hallelujah. All right, so we basically spoke on, during this class, we spoke on how to track your cycle. You count the days in between the beginning of one flow to the next. Your follicular phase, your ovulation, and your luteal phase. We learned that your follicular phase shouldn't be shorter than 10 days, and the luteal phase shouldn't be shorter than 10 days. So because of that, your overall cycle shouldn't be less than 21 days. Because if your cycle is less than 21 days, that means one of those phases or both of those phases are shorter than what they should be. Your follicular phase is when your egg is being matured in the ovary. You are flowing in the beginning of this phase, the follicular phase. The ovulation is when your ovary releases the egg. The luteal phase is the time between ovulation and your next flow. Your follicular phase shouldn't be shorter than 10 days, but could be as long or longer than 26 days. And your ovulation will only be 12 to 24 hours. And your luteal phase would always be 10 to 17 days long if you are hormonally balanced. If you're trying to conceive or trying not to, you would be mindful of your ovulation window or your actual ovulation based on your body signs. If you are having difficulty conceiving, monitor the quality of your cervical mucus and the length of your phases. They may reveal signs of hormonal imbalance. Possible causes of hormonal imbalances include chemicals, toxins, poor diet, stress, unhealthy weight, inactive lifestyle, excessive exercise, or other spiritual reasons, which you can get deliverance, you can seek healing, or like I said, it just may be all in Yah's hands. All right, your faith by your work. So we trust in Yah to heal our bodies, to do what is needed in our bodies. But of course, we know that faith is dead without works. So it's good for you to put forth your faith by showing your works. And this is how you can do that: by staying at peace. All right, maintain a healthy weight, limit sugar intake, have a healthy, active lifestyle, have a nutrient-dense, balanced diet, have adequate hydration, and alcohol moderation. So in a nutshell, that's what you would strive to do in order to encourage a more balance for your hormones. Okay, that was it. Okay, hallelujah. So, any questions? Because we have like a whole hour. I did good, y'all. So, any questions? We have at least 30 minutes, so that way Gabby can have time to prepare also. Okay, I'm going to take the microphone.
I wanted to know if you had any, if you had any information on how to produce more progesterone, like through herbs or food.
Like I said, the pretty much just a well-balanced diet altogether will cause your hormones to be properly balanced. So if you're making sure you're getting all your omegas, you're making sure that you're getting all those vitamins and minerals that I mentioned, you will definitely see good changes in your body. I'm sorry, I'm going to go back over here so I can go back to the slides and I can show you. But pretty much an overall balanced diet will give you all the vitamins and minerals that your body needs. Now, there are certain herbs that do aid in these things. I've never taken them myself. I'm very careful when it comes to advising different herbs to different women because it depends how you take it. You might take it the wrong way and it have a negative effect on your body. You have to be very careful when it comes to herbs. There are certain herbs that are recommended for these, for regulating your hormones. I would say first and foremost, try obtaining hormonal balance through these changes that I mentioned. There are certain herbs. I could mention, I can speak to you later about it. Like I said, I try to be careful not to mention things like this on a open platform because there's so much more that goes into it when you're taking herbs, and you want to be careful that you don't take it the wrong way and it hinder your body. Okay, it won't go back, but basically, I can actually send this presentation to y'all, but in the presentation, it did share a few vitamins and minerals that are more specific to the progesterone, increasing it, and then you can look at what foods are high in those vitamins and minerals. And then, like I said, using that food tracking app is really helpful to see how much you get in just your daily diet, and then you see how much you have to supplement. You had a question?
Okay, so I had two questions. First question was, what food tracking app do you recommend? And as far as diet goes, I know a lot of people do the blood type diet thing. Does that affect fertility or hormones at all?
Okay, yeah, so, and I know a lot of people are going to have different opinions on, especially when it comes to diet, but the first question was the chronometer. As long as you're getting all the macronutrients and the micronutrients that you need, it's not so much the diet that you're using, as long as you're getting the amount of protein you need, the amount of carbs you need, and the healthy fats you need, and from healthy sources that are least tainted by man, meaning not refined, things like that. And then making sure you're getting all your vitamins and minerals. So whatever diet you end up choosing, you just need to make sure that you're getting the amount of vitamins and minerals in your system, because that is what's most important. You just want to make sure that with whatever diet you're doing, you're not becoming deficient. That's why, I think I said it, but Chronometer. Chronometer is the app that I really like, Chronometer, Chrono meter, because it really shows you how much of these macro and micronutrients you're getting with the diet that you're currently, using, with the food that you're normally consuming. And then it'll show you where you need to change, if you need to increase certain things or decrease certain things in order to ensure that you're getting these vitamins and minerals in. Somebody else had a question. There was one. Yes, okay.
You answered one of my questions. I wanted to know how to spell the app. Yes, but I wanted to ask you if you could speak a little bit about diet after giving birth.
Yes. So I really like this app because you're able to put that you're breastfeeding. So in this app, you're able to put if you're pregnant, breastfeeding, or you're not, and it'll actually it'll adjust your calorie requirements and your nutrition requirements based on you breastfeeding, which is really cool because you do need an extra amount of calories when you're breastfeeding, but of course it depends your body composition, how much more calories you need, right? If you're struggling to hold weight, you may need to eat a little bit more. If you already have a little bit of extra weight, you may have to eat a little bit less than somebody else, but nonetheless, you will still need extra calories. And I like this app because it really helps you to give you that number based on your height, your weight, and your season of life, your age and everything. And then it also specifies, okay, how much protein you need, because when you're breastfeeding and pregnant, you do need more protein than when you're not breastfeeding or pregnant, and it'll give you that amount also in that, which I think is really cool. It helped me out to say, okay, I need to up my protein intake. Okay, I'm not getting enough of this vitamin. I'm not getting enough of this. And then surprisingly, because of how I would say I've been striving to eat very nutrient dense, I reach all my minerals I meet all my mineral requirements alone through my diet, through just eating. And then there's a few, and the majority of my vitamins I reach as well through just my diet. And I don't eat crazy. I just make sure I eat whole foods. I don't eat a lot of processed foods. I incorporate a smoothie daily just to get in a whole bunch of vitamins and minerals just at one time. But I would recommend just making sure you're eating nutrient dense, and that app will allow you to see how nutrient dense you really are eating. Yes. Any more questions? Questions? Okay.
My question is, I know Pastor did a Patreon video, And I wanted to ask you personally if you can give your testimony of what you did as a mother to conceive a male seed versus a female seed.
Okay, yes. Yes. Oh, that's Salome crying. I think she's just tired. Is Anna okay? Is Anna good? Anna's good, right? It's just Salome crying. Okay. Oh, that's Anna crying. Okay, never mind. All right, hallelujah. Salome is good. Okay, they're both good. Okay, so yes. So Pastor had said that, and I believe this is actually accurate. But when you are trying to conceive a male, it is recommended that you that the seed enter into you like the day that you're ovulating, or like right after the egg is released, the day of your ovulation. If if the seed enters into the woman's body days before you ovulate, you're more likely to have a girl. That's a theory, but I feel like it happened to me each time. With Jonathan, my master decided to be with me as soon as I was ovulating. I'm like, hey, I'm ovulating. He's like, okay, cool, let's have a baby. And so the next thing you know, I ended up having Jonathan, right? And like I said, at the time, I knew I was ovulating because I had the different feelings, the different ovary pain. My cervical mucus was on point, things like that. But with Salome, the seed entered into me about 3 days prior to my ovulation. And with Anna, the seed entered into me about 4 days prior to ovulation, and I had a girl both times. So I believe personally that that theory is correct. So the way you would know that you are, the way that you would know that you are done ovulating is when you get dry again. So for every woman, your signs may vary. So a woman might have cervical mucus 5 days before she ovulates, or 3 days before she ovulates, right? So she can be like, oh, I have cervical mucus, I'm ovulating. No, you're just probably about to ovulate. For some women, they're ovulating just on their ovulation day, but for some, they have that the days leading up to it, right? So you would know the day that you actually ovulated based on the day that you normally ovulate. So you would see your pattern, like, okay, I normally ovulate 3 days after I see cervical mucus because the next day I get dry. Or I notice I'm ovulating on 2 days after I see cervical mucus because by the second day I have that ovary pain, and then the next day I'm dry. So I feel like that would be the best way to ensure that you're reading your body correctly, by knowing, okay, the day that you get dry, you're done ovulating. So whatever was happening the day prior, those are the signs you got to pay attention to discern that you're actually ovulating. For me, I notice I get like some strong, I should say distinct ovary pain on either side when I'm ovulating, and then the next day I become dry. So I'm like, okay, I was ovulating, you know what I mean? So then I know when I feel that, I'm pretty confident that I can say, papi, I'm ovulating right now. You know what I mean? So you would just learn your body, and you would figure out what your pattern is and what your specific signs are. But like I said, once you get dry again, you can be confident that you're done ovulating. So whatever happened prior to that day was your signs. Yes. Any other questions? Okay.
Bless you, and thank you for such a thorough class. It was really good. So my question is, I know you said with breastfeeding, we can expect to be irregular with our cycles. So my question is, once we've completed breastfeeding, what time frame can we expect to be regular? And if we don't, is there a certain time frame where we may need to seek healing because we're not regular?
Yes. So in some cases, women can be irregular just based on hormone imbalances, which, like I said, can be caused by any of these reasons that I had mentioned, like diet and really our lifestyle. But sometimes you can get regular even while you're you can begin to get regular while breastfeeding as you're weaning. But every woman's body is different. Like I said, some women, I get my cycle back 4 months after, even though I'm breastfeeding the whole time. Like I breastfeed my babies till like 2 years old, and I get my cycle 4 months later from having a baby, right? But some other women, they don't get a cycle at all until they wean completely. Some women, as they begin to wean, as they begin to introduce foods like maybe at 7, 8 months, then they begin to get more regular. So every woman's body is different. I wouldn't say there's an exact time frame to say, okay, this is normal or not normal, because every woman's body is different. Like I said, some women may get regular as they're weaning or just when they completely wean altogether. If you're not breastfeeding and you notice you're still very irregular, I would consider your diet, your nutrition, because believe it or not, diet has a big effect on your hormones. And I would be mindful of that. If you're doing what you can naturally and you're still not seeing, because irregularity is not necessarily a bad thing if it is within the healthy time frame of the phases, like I said before. So as long as your follicular phase is healthy, like a healthy length, and your luteal phase is a healthy length, and you have the amount of cervical mucus that you should be producing during ovulation, even if one month you're like 28 and the next month you're like 24 and the next month you're 26, that's actually a regular irregularity, and that's nothing bad. That can be for even a young maiden. So being really, really irregular would be like 1 month you're like 54, the next month you're 20, the next month you're 30, the next month you're like, 40. Like, that's where I'd be like, okay, that there's some kind of hormonal imbalance there, and that you would want to consider either, changing what you're doing naturally or, seek healing. But I would say hit both sides, everybody. Just be mindful of both the natural and the spiritual. Make sure that you're taking care of your body just because it's good to take care of your body. But then also make sure that you're spiritually at peace, spiritually obedient, submissive, and doing what you have to do. Trusting in Yah, no fear, things like that. Any more questions? Did everything make sense? It made sense. Did it help anybody? Hallelujah. Do you want to share your testimony? Okay. So I wanted the sister to share her testimony. So she's going to do it right now. Okay. You can do however you want to go.
Okay. Bless you, sisters. My name is Sister Brittany. And I was recently, I got diagnosed with PCOS like at the beginning of the year. I went to go get a blood test done at my master's request, and it came back I had PCOS. So growing up, I had a pretty average, lifestyle as far as like eating and things like that. We didn't go out a lot, so we had a lot of home cooked meals and things. So it was weird that as I was coming into my teenage years, I didn't start my cycle until I was 16. My mom was like freaking out. As soon as I turned 16, though, she put me on Depo-Vera, which is a type of very strong birth control. It's a 3-month cycle birth control. You get a shot every 3 months, and it works. It works very well. But in that time, it completely removes your cycle. And what they will not tell you when you go and get it is if you are on it for a prolonged period of time, it has a chance to dry up your ovaries. I was on it for 8 years, and I just recently got off of it about 4 to 16 to about 3 to 4 years ago. And it's just now through the power of Yah and my master and his guidance and all that I've been able to learn in this process. I've just recently had my first full flow cycle and ovulation, and so do not be discouraged. Yah works in mysterious ways, and he is the one who opens up our wounds. So hallelujah.
Yeah, so I thought that was really encouraging because, like I said, birth control can really mess with our bodies. This world, man, they did something. They tried to mess us up, right? But that just shows encouragement that Yah is able to do all things. Once you stop, you take care of your body, and you trust in the power of Yah, what he's able to do. He's able to do all things. So anything else? If not, we'll wrap it up. I feel like we make good timing, so hallelujah. Okay, bless y'all, sisters. I love y'all.